Pacific, the largest ocean on Earth, was not only the gateway to the age of exploration in the 15th and 16th centuries, but also the battleground for some of the most brutal naval warfare in World War II. In Europe, Nazi Germany terrified the world with its fast-moving blitzkrieg tank divisions, while in the East, it was Imperial Japan that shook the oceans with its mighty fleet of aircraft carriers and battleships, the pride of the empire, the rising sun. Using its naval supremacy, Japan rapidly expanded southward into Southeast Asia, capturing resource-rich colonies and threatening American interests across the Pacific. From Washington, D.C., U.S. leaders quickly recognized the looming threat, but instead of direct military intervention, they imposed economic sanctions, cutting off Japan's access to oil and steel, the lifeblood of its military machine. Tokyo understood that if it didn't act, its empire would slowly strangle from a lack of fuel. They needed a preemptive strike, swift, overwhelming, and unexpected, to cripple the U.S. fleet and force Washington to negotiate from a position of weakness. On November 26, 1941, a massive task force of 6 aircraft carriers carrying 423 planes, along with cruisers and destroyers, quietly left Kuril Islands under the command of Vice Admiral Chuchi Nagumo. Their target, Pearl Harbor, America's largest naval base in Hawaii, home to the powerful U.S. Pacific Fleet. 7:55 a.m., December 7, 1941. The skies over Hawaii erupted in flames as 138 Japanese planes, led by Colonel Mitsuo Fukuda, dove down on Pearl Harbor, launching the most infamous surprise attack in modern history. In just 2 hours, over 350 Japanese aircraft unleashed a rain of bombs upon the American naval base. Completely caught off guard, the U.S. defenses offered little resistance. When the smoke cleared, 5 battleships were sunk, 4 more heavily damaged, and numerous cruisers, destroyers, and over 180 aircraft destroyed. 2,403 American servicemen were killed. In return, Japan lost just 29 planes and 5 mini-submarines. However, the U.S.'s 3 primary aircraft carriers, Japan's most important targets, were not in port that day. Even worse for Tokyo, they failed to destroy the fuel depots and repair facilities, the strategic blunder that allowed the U.S. Navy to recover much faster than expected. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a military triumph, but a political disaster for Japan. Previously, public opinion in America was deeply divided. Over 800,000 members of the America First Committee had opposed entering the war. But after the attack, the U.S. was united under one rallying cry: remember Pearl Harbor. At noon on December 8, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared war on Japan. The sleeping giant had awakened. Within days, more than 20 nations, including Britain, Australia, and Canada, also declared war. While the U.S. reeled from the blow, Japan struck like a typhoon across Southeast Asia, conquering every colonial possession of Britain, France, the Netherlands, and the United States, as well as numerous strategic islands across the Pacific. In just 5 months, Japan had seized 3.8 million square kilometers of territory with 150 million inhabitants, including mainland China. The empire stretched over 7 million square kilometers, ruling more than 500 million people. The Imperial Navy dominated the seas, sinking 7 battleships, 2 aircraft carriers, and countless other vessels, capturing 400,000 prisoners, all at the cost of just 15,000 Japanese lives. This was the zenith of the empire, the rising sun, made possible by surprise, Allied complacency, and a lack of preparation. But once wounded, America began to strike back. Just 2 months later, the U.S. Navy launched retaliatory raids, bombing the Gilbert, Marshall, Wake, and Marcus Islands, slowly turning the tide of war back toward Japan. On March 10, 1942, U.S. bombers struck Japanese bases at Lae, Salamaua, and New Guinea, sinking a light cruiser, a rescue ship, and a transport vessel. But these early victories were not enough to change the momentum. The American people needed a bold, symbolic strike, an attack that would ignite national morale, a strike on Japanese soil itself. That bold plan was called the Doolittle Raid. On April 18th, from the deck of the aircraft carrier USS Hornet, 16B, 25 bombers led by Colonel James Doolittle suddenly appeared over the skies of Tokyo. Although the bombing caused little material damage, it dealt a severe psychological blow to Japan's leadership, prompting the Imperial Navy to retaliate by launching invasions of Midway and Port Moresby, two strategic points in the South Pacific. In early May, Operation Imo began. Vice Admiral Shigeyoshi Inoue led a fleet including a light aircraft carrier, 14 landing ships, and several cruisers toward Port Moresby. Simultaneously, Japanese forces occupied Tulagi and the Solomon Islands. But the Americans, having cracked Japanese codes, deployed a fleet under Admiral Frank J. Fletcher, including the USS Lexington and USS Yorktown, to intercept. On May 7 to 8, 1942, the Battle of the Coral Sea broke out, the first naval battle in history where the opposing ships never saw each other, fighting entirely through aircraft. The result: the Japanese carrier Shoho was sunk and Shokaku heavily damaged. The U.S. lost USS Lexington, and Yorktown was badly hit. Though a tactical draw, Japan was forced to abandon the Port Moresby invasion, the first time since Pearl Harbor that their advance had been halted. Momentum began to shift toward the Allies. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto now turned to his next plan: the capture of Midway Atoll, a key stepping stone in the Central Pacific, while also attacking the Aleutian Islands near Alaska. After the Doolittle raid, Yamamoto became determined to land a decisive blow: the destruction of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, especially its aircraft carriers, now Japan's greatest threat. The Midway operation mobilized nearly the entire Imperial Navy: 8 aircraft carriers, 11 battleships, 23 cruisers, 65 destroyers, 21 submarines, and over 260 warplanes, the largest Japanese naval deployment of the entire war. However, American codebreakers had already deciphered the Japanese plans. Admiral Chester Nimitz set up an ambush with carriers Enterprise, Yorktown, and over 200 aircraft. On June 3, 1942, U.S. reconnaissance planes spotted the Japanese fleet approaching Midway. The next day, 108 Japanese aircraft launched their first bombing wave, but faced strong U.S. defenses and caused minimal damage. The American response came in 3 torpedo waves, all disastrous failures. Out of 41 torpedo bombers, 35 were shot down. The Japanese believed they had broken the enemy's back. But at 10 a.m. June 4th, while the Japanese carriers were refueling and rearming for a second strike, the U.S. dive bomber squadron from the USS Enterprise accidentally located the Japanese carrier formation. In just 20 minutes, 3 carriers, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu, were engulfed in flames and destroyed. Only Hiryu remained. She counterattacked and crippled USS Yorktown, but later that day, she too was sunk by American bombers. On June 6, a Japanese submarine sank Yorktown and destroyed USS Hammond, but the momentum had already shifted. Yamamoto ordered a full retreat. The outcome: for Japanese carriers, 1 cruiser, 248 aircraft, and most of Japan's elite naval pilots lost. The U.S. lost 1 carrier, 1 destroyer, and 117 aircraft. This catastrophic defeat crippled Japanese naval air power and ended their strategic initiative in the Pacific. By late 1943, the Allies had begun a full-scale counteroffensive, launching assaults on Japan's fortified island chains across the Pacific. The Gilbert and Marshall Islands campaign marked the first major American island-hopping offensive. Despite heavy casualties, over 1,000 U.S. troops killed and 2,000 wounded, the islands were secured after a week of fierce fighting. With the first line breached, U.S. forces pushed deeper into Mariana and Palau Islands, setting the stage for the largest carrier battle in history. The result: Japan lost 3 carriers for 175 aircraft, while the U.S. lost 130 planes and only 2 oilers. Japan's carrier-based air power was effectively annihilated. The U.S. then captured Guam and Tinian, creating a direct launch path to the Japanese mainland. To protect the flank for the upcoming Philippines campaign, the U.S. assaulted Polillo and Angar, Palau. In September 1944, after more than 2 months of brutal fighting, the islands fell to U.S. control, closing the Palau front. Next objective: Iwo Jima, Japan's forward fortress in Pacific. Roughly 22,000 Japanese troops defended the island against 110,000 U.S. Marines, backed by 700 warships and 28 aircraft carriers. After 3 days of relentless bombardment, U.S. forces landed on the morning of February 19, 1945. Mount Suribachi, the island's highest point, was captured on February 23rd, marking a symbolic victory immortalized by the iconic image of the American flag being raised. Yet the battle raged on until March 26th, leaving over 26,000 American casualties, more than the Japanese defenders. Iwo Jima became a vital launch point for bombing raids on the Japanese mainland. Okinawa, the largest island in the Ryukyu chain, was the next and most crucial target. On April 1st, 1945, over 180,000 U.S. troops landed with little initial resistance. Japan deployed its Second Fleet, including the massive battleship Yamato, the largest in the world, as a decoy, hoping to lure American ships into range of kamikaze suicide attacks. But on April 7th, within just 2 hours of combat, Yamato and 6 escort ships were sunk. The Imperial Japanese Navy was effectively annihilated. As U.S. forces pushed toward the Shuri Line, Japanese resistance grew desperate. By late May, the defensive lines collapsed. General Ushijima committed suicide. Okinawa had fallen. From that moment, Japan was surrounded on all sides. Its navy destroyed, air force decimated, and industry in ruins. All that remained was the army and a national will to fight to the last man. In August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, while the Soviet Red Army launched a massive invasion into Manchuria, crushing the Guandong Army. With no options left, Japan surrendered unconditionally. On September 2, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, Japanese representatives Mamoru Shigemitsu and Yashijiro Yumizu signed the instrument of surrender before General Douglas MacArthur and the Allied delegations. The Pacific War and World War II was over. Thus ended one of the darkest and bloodiest chapters in human history.